So I want to welcome everybody to these still these unique times that we're having right now and meeting remotely, and hopefully sometime maybe in the next meeting we'll be able to do a socially distanced gathering. I want to hop into the main event because we have a special speaker. Before I do that, I just want to look at the slide that we're on. If you're like me, the community pages changed. So if you try to use your old link, it won't work. I want you to just make a note of this because they spent a lot of time revamping it. It's very useful. We're there. That's where you find the Piedmont Triad, and you'll see things that we post. You'll see the recording of this session as well once we receive it from Tableau. Here's the quick agenda. You should have a copy of that. It was on Splash where you registered. We're going to start with Sarah. Sarah Bartlett, Zen master, kind heart, talented, accessible to those of us when we have questions, very present on Twitter. Sarah loves data. Her blog is an important resource for many of us as well. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
Before you go on, did you hit the record button?
Yeah. I guess.
It's recording already.
Okay, great, because mine doesn't show. Thank you.
Do I have to unshare? I have to unshare, Sarah, or can you take it from me?
And you need to unshare, yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
Can you see my slides okay?
Oh, perfect, perfect.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm going to be talking about IronQuest and IronViz. Before I begin, I think Bonnie's covered this already, but I'm Sarah Bartlett. I work as a consultant at Slalom. I'm based in London. I'm a Tableau Zen Master, social ambassador, and I was in the IronViz Europe final in 2018, and you'll hear more about that shortly. If you want to get in touch with me, there's my Twitter handle, Sarah Loves Data, and my blog, sarahlovesdata.co.uk. I'll share those details at the end as well, so don't worry if you don't want to take them down. You may know me from Tableau Public, so I've got about 150 something visualizations on there now. Probably my most famous one is the one on the right, which is the Explore European Cities, and that was the viz that got me into the IronViz final. In terms of my professional background, I've been working in analytics for just over 12 years, and 6 of those years have been spent using Tableau. I've been a Tableau consultant for 3 years. I've got the Tableau Desktop Certified Associate and Professional certifications, and I've been running London Tug since 2016. So in terms of IronViz, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to what it is, just in case there's anyone on that hasn't heard of IronViz. So the definition from Tableau is IronViz is a data visualization contest giving you the opportunity to compete with data rock stars from around the world. Now, that doesn't really tell us much about what IronViz is. So this picture is from IronViz in Las Vegas last year, so the final. And the final of IronViz is this huge spectacle. But the way that IronViz works is kind of in 2 different stages. So the first stage is a feeder competition. Now, normally there'll be 3 feeders throughout the year. So Tableau would then pick a winner from each of those 3 feeders, and those 3 people end up on stage, like in the picture I've shown. But this year is slightly different because there was only 1 feeder competition. Now, that feeder competition had just recently closed at the beginning of August. But the idea was that people went away and visualized the topic health and well-being. So you could build any visualization you liked using any data set you liked, as long as it touched on the topic of health and well-being. Now, I'm actually a judge in this competition, so I can't talk too much about it, but what will happen is the top 3 highest scoring vizes from that feeder competition will progress to the live final. Now, this year is going to be slightly different because the live final will be virtual as there's no conference in person at least. And that will be taking place in October 2020. Now, this year, Tableau received an incredible 371 entries into the feeder competition. I think last year in total, they received about 280 entries across the 3 feeder competitions. So that number is huge, definitely record breaking. And what's more amazing is that 86% of the people that entered this year were actually first time IronViz entrants. Now that may be because this year the competition comes with cash prizes. Now normally the prize for IronViz in previous years has been you get a trophy and you get a free ticket to go to the Tableau conference the following year, plus all your expenses paid for the conference that you need to perform on stage at. But this year is slightly different. So this year the winner of the final will actually get $10,000 in cash. Second place is $5,000, third place is $2,000. Plus each of the finalists have the opportunity to donate an amount of money to charity. So the first place gets to donate $5,000 to a charity of their choice. So these, I think the reason we've seen such a high number of entries is simply because of the cash prizes, but either way it's great, and I'm really pleased to see that more people are getting involved in IronViz. In terms of the scoring, IronViz is judged on design, storytelling and analysis, and the strength of your biz in each of those categories. Now, the judges can allocate 5 points for each of these elements, so giving you a total of 15 points. In terms of design, what the judges will be looking for is, a good use of colour, a good layout, just general alignment to design best practice. And also a design that kind of fits with the visualization you're doing and the theme. Storytelling is how well everything kind of pulls together, how well your biz flows. Does it tell a clear story? Does it have a clear conclusion? Does it answer a question? That kind of thing. And analysis is the strength of the actual analysis that supports that story. So are you using different chart types? Are you finding different insights and through maybe more advanced analysis? Rather than just showing maybe basic graphs. So that's essentially how it's scored, and IronQuest is scored in exactly the same way, except we don't judge in the same way as IronViz, and I'll go more into that later. So you might be wondering, why did I start a project called IronQuest? Well, before I tell you what IronQuest is, I'm going to tell you my story. So back in 2018, in about, I think it was in March, I decided to enter the IronViz Europe competition. Now, the IronViz Europe competition is usually held, the final is held at the European conference, which is a lot smaller than the US conference. There's only one feeder for that every year, so the top 3 finalists progress through to the stage. Now, when I entered this, I was doing it for a bit of fun. I had some downtime at work, so I thought I'd make the most of it and enter IronViz for the first time. The topic of this feeder was European cities, hence the picture I've got on the screen now. So you have around about a month to complete a feeder, and I'd say I spent about 3 weeks of that month Googling European cities and different variations of European cities in the attempt to find a data set that met the theme. Now, I didn't find any data sets at all that met that theme, but I did find this website. This website's called thepriceoftravel.com. And the idea of this website is it tells you the cheapest places to travel to if you want to backpack around Europe on a budget. So it'll tell you like how much approximately it would cost to spend a night in each city. So it's broken down into things like accommodation, transportation, meals, drinks, entertainment, and that kind of thing. So it gives you a approximate amount that you'd need to have per day to spend in each city. And I thought, when I found this website, I thought, wouldn't it be great if this was a data set that I could use and actually visualize in Tableau? Problem is that the website looked like this. This is just a screenshot of one city, but it was like this repeated about 59 times. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to go through and, type up this in Excel myself. My data scraping skills weren't great back then. So I decided to reach out to my friend, Lorna Brown. And you may know Lorna, she's also a Zen master. And I knew Lorna could do some like web scraping using Alteryx. So I asked Lorna, I said, if I give you this website, is there any way you could get the data for me into like an Excel spreadsheet? And sure enough, I think she probably took about 10 or 15 minutes, and then she came back to me with a lovely Excel spreadsheet of all the data that I wanted, which was just amazing. So I owe a lot to Lorna. But thankfully, I was able to use that data to produce this visualization. Now, this is just a the top part of it that actually repeats itself like 5 times for 5 different cities. But it took me, I'd say, probably a couple of days to build this. It was quite a fiddly process because I've got a lot of floating elements and things, but I decided to really push myself with this viz. I tried Mapbox for the first time. I tried lots of different like techniques and interactivity for the first time as well. And I was really happy with the result, but by no means did I think it would get me to the final, but sure enough, it did. So I ended up participating in the final that summer with Daniel and Klaus. We had to viz live on stage in front of about 4,000 people. And with the live finals, everyone's given the same data set, and you're given that about a month in advance of the actual competition. Now, the data set that we were given was the Big Mac Index, which is compiled by The Economist. So this looks at the price of Big Macs around the world and compares them and almost uses it as a bit of a currency like valuation tool. And it tries to determine if there's like under or overvalued currencies. Now, we were told that we could use this data set, but we needed to supplement it with another data set of our choosing. And we needed to use Tableau Prep to bring the 2 data sets together, or 2 or more. Now, at this time, Tableau Prep was brand new. It literally just come out, and they wanted to use it really as an opportunity for us to demonstrate what Tableau Prep could do. Now, I spent a lot of time in that 4 weeks just looking for other data sets that could support the Big Mac Index data set, because I found that there was no real story in the Big Mac Index. There was nothing in there that was kind of really compelling. And with IronViz, quite often you want quite an emotional story to tell live on stage. So anyway, I ended up focusing on Japan because I found quite an interesting story in Japan about McDonald's, and they had a bit of a rocky history. They had some health scares. There was a strike in the US, which meant that Japan couldn't get any potatoes. So for a period of time, they couldn't sell any fries. There was some issues with the manager of the CEO of the Japanese McDonald's. So there was all this stuff going on. So I kind of found those stories when I was Googling. I thought that was quite interesting. So I decided to drill into that and build this visualization. Now, I kept to quite strict like business dashboard principles, but essentially I had to build something in 20 minutes. So I wanted to keep it quite simple, but also have different stories that I could tell when I presented this to the audience. So myself and the other 3 contestants went away and we all built visualizations on ourselves. We didn't see those visualizations until a few minutes before we actually went live. Now, this was the visualization produced by Klaus, who I was on stage with. And the minute I saw this, I just knew that he would win. Like, his visualization was so much more like attractive and compelling than mine. He did this really cool like polygon map technique that like no one had ever seen before. And just visually, it was much more appealing on the big screen. So it was no surprise to me that Klaus won that competition. But to be honest, I had such a great time participating in IronViz. I was really happy. Like I didn't really care what the outcome was. It was just a good thing to be part of. It was a lot of fun, definitely like a once in a lifetime experience. And so I was really glad I participated. But around the time later that year, I didn't participate in any more IronViz feeders because I think I had my fair share that year. But I was talking to people, and a lot of people were saying, you know, I don't want to ever enter IronViz. It's not for me. I'm not good enough. And just sharing this kind of negative sentiment. So that kind of annoyed me a little bit, because I thought, you know, it'd be really good if people didn't enter and did feel like they could do it and had the confidence to do it. Now, in terms of the other things that stop people from entering, Tableau actually ran a survey back in 2017, and these were some of the survey findings. So just representing the sentiment I was hearing from people. So 32% said they didn't feel confident enough, 25% said they had a lack of time. Bear in mind, you always get a month to compete in a feeder. 22% said they were intimidated by their entries, and 9% said, I'm not going to win, so what's the point of me entering? Now, I wanted to kind of break down these things and stop, help people get over that barrier that was stopping them from entering. So I decided to found a project called IronQuest. So IronQuest was founded back in January 2019 with a mission to create a safe space for the community to practice around a competition that well, it's not a competition though, a project that mimics the IronViz feeders. So every month we provide a different topic for people to go away and visualize. The topics deliberately kept quite broad, so you can take your own spin on it. The idea is you go and source your own data. So unlike some other projects like Makeover Monday or Workout Wednesday or Project Health Viz, where they provide a data set, with IronQuest we rarely provide a data set, because the idea is that you help build up those skills that you need to source your own data. Like you saw with my example, when I couldn't source my own data for my IronViz entry, I think it's important people are able to build up those skills. So IronQuest gives you an opportunity to do that. It helps you to get feedback. So every round we provide feedback to other entrants, so it helps people to really grow their skills, and also it helps authors gain exposure. So all of the visits that enter into every round are featured on my website, and I also try and make an effort of tweeting them out as well. So hopefully it helps people to reach new audiences. And ultimately the main mission is to help people prepare for participation in the IronViz feeders. In terms of the process, the whole process takes around about a month. So it starts off with the topic being announced. People then go away and source the data, build a visualization, submit the visualization, and if they wish, they can request feedback. This is all done via a Google form, which is on my website. And then based on who asks for feedback, I then run a call with a community member where we go through all those visualizations and provide the feedback that on those visualizations, and then people can then go away and iterate on that if they wish. Since we've been, and as I said, the focus is on design, storytelling, and analysis, just like the IronViz feeders. So you really need to focus in on those 3 areas. Now, I don't think I said it before, but I must say that it's very hard to hit all those 3 elements. I've spent the last weekend judging the IronViz entries for this year. And as I said, I can't really talk too much about that, but as in previous years, it's very difficult for people to hit those 3, and it's rare that you see a viz that excels in all 3. Typically, a visualization will be quite good in 1 or 2, but not all 3. So it is really challenging, and I think with IronQuest, it's good to help people practice those skills. So far, since January 2019, I've run 10 challenges. One of those is still ongoing at the moment. There's almost 300 entries to date across 173 participants, and 18 of the entries have received visit of the day, which is amazing. We typically get 1 to 2 visualizations featured as visit of the day per challenge, which is amazing to see. In terms of entries per round, the most popular round was the round that I ran last month, or actually the month before, because it was just before the IronViz feeder, which was on quantified self. Now, if you don't know what quantified self is, it's like where you track data about yourself. So it could be fitness data, sleep data, your daily activities, or things, anything about you really. And I chose this topic because of everything that was going on with COVID, and I recognized people's lifestyles were changing, and a lot of people were tracking things about their life because it was quite a unique situation, you know, being in lockdown. And as a result, we got a record number of entries that month. So there was 62 versus the previous record of 39 when we ran maps. It was just really amazing to see, like the entries were coming in like one after the other. And the diversity of the entries was just incredible. So that was really like reassuring. I've had the pleasure of working with 8 different people from across the community. So as I said before, every month I team up with a co-host, and they help me with the feedback element of the contest. So these are the people that I've jumped on calls with, and it's just been great to talk to different ambassadors, Zen masters, IronViz champions, just a real cross section of people from across the globe. Now, just to give you an idea of some of the entries that we've had to date, I'm just going to walk you through quickly some examples, starting from the beginning. So the first month that I ran IronQuest, the topic was crime. Now, I just want to give you a sense of the diversities of entries that we receive and how people take the topic and make it their own. So these 2 visualizations are completely different in style and design, but also completely different in topic. So the visualization on the left is by Alex Jones, and this looks at mass shootings in the US, and just really brings it to life. and it's just a really like visually compelling style. Whereas the visualization on the right is by Mike Cisneros, and it looks at the song Feeling Like a Criminal by Fiona Apple, and it looks at where she actually performed that song live on stage at different concerts. So completely different takes on the topic, and like I said, both completely different designs. The second month that we ran the contest, it was looking at business dashboards. And believe it or not, for a long time, this was the most popular round that we had. So clearly people like visualizing things in a business dashboard style. Now, the big visualization on the right is by Spencer Borke. Now, he actually looked at the NFL data, but he applied a business dashboard style to it, which I thought was really cool. The visualization bottom left is by Kevin Flerledge. So he looked at some data from his church that he'd collected, and it's actually a visualization he uses in real life. And then the visualization on the top left is by Anna, and Anna's actually from Poland, so she visualized some data on hospital waiting times, and it's all in Polish, which I thought was really cool. Now, the third month that we ran it, our topic was the environment. So we've got a whole variety of different visualizations here. So the one on the left is about the whaling industry, and that's by Kate Schwab. I thought this was really cool how she'd shown like the whales at the bottom. You kind of get the sense that they're like underwater underneath the mountains. The visualization in the middle is by Michelle Freeman, and she looked at the Flint water crisis. And again, I thought this was really powerful because she used that monochrome style to keep like, kept like a really muted tone, and had a call to action at the end, which is always good to see. And then the visualization on the right is by Frederick Ferry, and he looked at koalas in Australia, in Queensland specifically, and how they're endangered by various different things, essentially humans, which is really interesting because it's actually quite a really sad story. For the next round, we looked at sea creatures. So the visualization on the left is a visualization I collaborated on with Kevin Flerledge. And so we decided to look at green sea turtles and their life cycle. But we also found some really interesting data about a real green sea turtle called Bean, who had a tracker placed on her back so we could see where she was traveling. She's actually based in Costa Rica. So we centered the story around her and what her life probably looked like, which was really interesting and really fun to build. And the visualization on the right is by Zach, I think, and this looked at Baby Shark, and basically that he put the song Baby Shark into practice and visualize the life cycle of a shark and things that happen along the journey, which I thought was really cool. The next month we looked at sports. So this was actually a collaboration with Sports Viz Sunday, which is another community project. And we had, I think it was around 16 different sports visualized that month. And there's just a few here. So we've got 2 tennis vizzes, but both completely different. And then the visualization on the right is by Neil Richards. And he looked at the Rugby World Cup, which was held in Japan last year. And each kind of like flower there represents a different team and how they performed, which I thought was really visually compelling. The next month we ran a visualization contest on food and drink. So the visualization on the left is by Bo McCready, and he looked at the characteristics of cheeses visualized in a pie chart form. The middle visualization is by Maria Brock, who looked at Napa Valley. She wanted to try out her map box skills, so she used it as an opportunity to build a map and custom design that. And then the visualization on the right is by Kate Schwab, and she looked at cocktails and how often they're Googled throughout the year to see if there's any kind of times of the year when things are Googled more. So she found out that the mint julep is only really Googled around one time of the year, and that's when the Kentucky Derby takes place, and that's the one on the bottom left here. The next month we looked at prisons, and specifically healthcare and prisons. This was a collaboration with Project Health Viz, also another community project that's run by Lindsay Betzendahl. And a lot of people that month focused in on mental health and mental health of women in prisons, because that was a data set that we provided. But we've also got a visualization in the middle here looking at overcrowding. So it's really interesting to see some really powerful visits that month. Then we ran a visualization theme on maps. So I ran this with Johnny Walker, who's recently joined Mapbox, and you're probably familiar with his work, as he quite often shares it on Twitter, but it was a pleasure to join up with him, and we saw many different variations of maps. The visualization at the bottom left is by Fred, who's based in Australia, and he actually visualized the locations that were important to him and his wife. So where they met, where he proposed, and where they got married, which I thought was really sweet. Then we had a hex map by Gary in the UK. So this is looking at fly tipping and where the most common boroughs are for fly tipping. And then the visualization on the right is by Pradeep. I strongly recommend you have a look at this on Tableau Public, because it's all animated and it shows kind of rainfall throughout the US and when that's most likely to occur. It's all animated and it's really cool to watch. Now, the most recent round, as I mentioned before, was on quantified self. So these are 4 of the entries that we saw that month, and it was just amazing for me to see how people took this topic and made it their own. So we've got vizzes here on family and who belongs to which family. The pink visualization that you see here is actually by Vatnesh and his daughter, who I think she's only about 5 or 6 years old. So she actually helped him build this visualization, which was amazing to see. She has to be our youngest entrant so far. Then we had other people look at how they were spending lockdown, the different methods they were using to contact other people. We've got a visualization here that looks at where somebody's traveled around the world, different countries they visited. And then Praveen looked at his Twitter history and how he'd been tweeting, what he'd been tweeting about, whether it's tweets or retweets or replies and that kind of thing, and really took that Twitter theme and made it his own. So hopefully that's given you an idea of the kind of things that people enter. I just want to give you an idea of who enters and a spotlight on 2 participants in particular. So in terms of where people come from, the standout countries are the US, the UK, India, and countries in APAC. But you can see that it's been people from across the world and all continents, which has been amazing to see. And I'd like to encourage more. I want to fill up this map if I can. And so we do see new countries popping up every month, which is great. In terms of how long people have been using Tableau for, so around 67% have been using Tableau for at least 2, if not more years, but 9% have been using Tableau for amazing 0 to 3 months, which I think is incredible. And this ties back to the stat I gave you at the beginning, but in terms of first-time participants, 78% of people that have entered IronQuest to date haven't entered an IronViz competition. Now, this was taken pre-IronViz this year, so that may well change. I expect it to go down because 86% of the entrants in IronViz this year were first-time participants. So I'm hoping that IronQuest kind of gave people that push to enter IronViz. In terms of participant spotlight, the first person I'd like to spotlight is Mira. So Mira comes from Singapore, and last year she took it upon herself to enter every single Makeover Monday, and in doing so she also entered every single IronQuest. And so as she got further through the year, she actually plucked up the courage to enter IronViz in the final feeder that was run in 2019, and she was lucky enough to actually make it to fifth place in the top 10 list, which is amazing for a first-time participant. And just to look at some of Mira's work, the visualization on the left was in January 2019, so for the crime theme. So it was one of the first visualizations that she did. And I compare that to a visualization she did towards the end of last year, which is looking at spices produced in India. And you can really see how her design skills have come on. She's really, got this sense of style for herself. And then just so you can see it, this was the visualization that got her 5th place in IronViz last year. It's just, I've actually had to split it into 2 because it's quite a long visualization, but you can see that her design skills are simply amazing, and it's no surprise she got 5th place. Now at the end of the year, she also put together this visualization which looks at all of her IronQuest entries, and this is available on Tableau Public if you'd like to explore that more. And then the other participant I'd like to spotlight is Kate Schwab. So Kate is from Montana, and she's similar to Mira really. She's decided to start participating in Makeover Monday, and in doing so she also got involved in IronQuest. And she really found that the feedback really helped her, and also the safe environment that we kind of have. So it's not like IronViz where there's always a winner. IronQuest is completely open. It's a safe environment. You're not going to get judged in any way by participating, and she found comfort in that. Now, in terms of Kate's journey, the visualization on the left is a viz that she did in January last year, and then a visualization on the right is the one that she did for the map round, which was earlier this year. So again, huge difference between the two visualizations, and Kate's skills are just amazing, but she's really like built up those skills in a short period of time, which has been amazing to see. And just like Mira, she also built a visualization at the end of the year which showed all of her IronQuest entries for 2019, and again you can look at this on Tableau Public. So hopefully I've inspired you to get involved. As I said before, we've currently got a project underway which just launched at the weekend. So it's on myths, mystery and magic. And the reason it's on myths, mystery and magic is because it was actually suggested to me by the community, but I thought it would be quite nice to do something completely different and something quite lighthearted that would take everyone's mind off the like pandemic and everything that's been going on. So my co-host this month is Sam Parsons. He's from the UK, he works at Dyson, and he's got a blog on design principles. He's also just founded the DataFam feedback hashtag on Twitter. So I thought it would be a good chance to team up with him and provide some feedback. The deadline for that round is the September the 6th. So there's still plenty of time to get involved if you're interested. As I said before, you can take that topic any way you wish, and make it your own. So again, purposely kept it really broad. If you want some more details, that you can look at my blog. So I've got blog posts for each of the rounds that we've run, and there's a special blog post for the most recent round, so you can find out some inspiration and potential data sets. And you can have a look on there for the project recaps as well. And I also have a visualization which keeps track of how we're doing. So that's on my Tableau Public page. And in the meantime, if any of the other projects are of interest to you, I've just got some details here. So the common like community projects you can get involved in. So Makeover Monday I've mentioned a few times. That's a weekly project. Workout Wednesday is also a weekly project, slightly different. Makeover Monday, you produce something from scratch, you're given a data set. Workout Wednesday, you take a visualization that's already been built and try and reproduce it. Sports Biz Sunday and Project Health Biz both run on a monthly basis, as does the SDG, so Sustainable Development Goals Biz project. And then Prepping Data is a weekly project that runs every Wednesday, which is specifically designed to do in Tableau Prep. So if you want to learn Tableau Prep, that's a great place to start. And then if you are interested in the community, there's plenty of ways to get involved. So you could start a Tableau Public profile, engage with the community on social media. If you want to know where to start, I'd suggest going on Twitter and just searching for the hashtag DataFam, and you'll find some Tableau people that way and easily get involved. DataFam feedback, I mentioned, is an initiative that's been started by Sam. So if you've got a viz and you want to get some feedback on it, you can just use that hashtag and someone will reach out to you with some feedback. There's literally thousands of community blogs out there. You will find them through social media if you don't know where else to begin. Also, there's a lot of YouTube videos. I'd say a good place to start would be Andy Kriebel's YouTube channel. He's posting content on there all the time. And then if there's nothing out there that takes your fancy, you can always start your own blog and share your own content. You can engage on the forums. So the community forums, which Bonnie mentioned at the beginning, are a really great place to go if you've got a question or you want to help people answer questions about Tableau. And if you'd like a mentor or you want to sign up to be a mentor, you can have a look at mentoringmeetup.com, which is where you can go to be matched with a mentor or mentee. So thank you for listening, and thank you for having me, Bonnie. If anyone wants to reach out to me, all my contact details are here, my Tableau Public profile as well. But yeah, thank you. I don't know if anyone's got any questions.
That was great. Does anyone have any questions for Sarah? If because I mean that you know what's really great about it is, you know, some of the data sources I'm familiar with, and I'm seeing what people did with them, and I'm like, wow. What I
Yeah,
did want to ask you is like, so you didn't know it was about Big Macs until you were there?
no, a month before. We knew a month before.
Oh, okay. No, because I was wondering how you got those really cool little hamburgers and
Oh, on Klaus's vids, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I knew I'd lost the minute I saw that vids, but it was fine. We're good friends, so.
But that's a lot of fun, and thank you so much, you know, for hopping across the pond.
That's fine. Thank you for having me. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions or thinks of anything, feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, it'd be good to see some people get involved in IronQuest.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now you just give me the screen back, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
So I think I'm back. Okay, hold on. I just have to get my PowerPoint. So that was Sarah. What I want you to know also is we're going to be auctioning. We're going to be giving away this lovely Tableau backpack. We're going to be doing it towards the end, so you have to be here to win it. And you have to be local because I'm going to have to get it to you somehow, some way. What I wanted to show you here, just really quickly, while as an intro to Brad's talking about noodles, is a little bit about, well, not really storytelling, but data sourcing as well. So what I want to do every time we meet is to have somebody, please, it doesn't have to be me, I'd love anyone else to step up, but to just share something you learned or some data sources or things that you found. So I was already teaching a workshop on data storytelling and had a bit of a template. So I just threw some things in it that used to be live, but I turned them into images for the purposes of our time, so it doesn't take time to load and all of that. So let me just switch screens to share with you that, and then we will, let's see, where'd it go? There we go. We're going to just start here real fast and just scroll through. So, you know, what this was about is telling data stories. And, you know, a lot of times in data, we're measuring everything, right? We just measure, and we forget that that's not the goal. The goal isn't to measure, it's to either curate empathy, instill action. And I always think of baking along those lines because, you know, you can make anything you want with what's in your fridge and your cabinets and you're okay. But when you bake, you have to be cognizant of the chemistry that's happening underneath the surface. So I always use something with baking and measurements, and this is just a way of storytelling. I use ArcGIS a lot to output data because it's already cleaned. I can get my counties, I can get my my metrics, my census data. So I just wanted to share this with you, just how easy it is to, you know, show relationships. I do a lot of work with census data. So what you see here with the little yellow nubbins, that's below the national median. So you're taking Black households and you're comparing them to what the national median is. And anywhere that's green, the Black households are earning above. So, you know, as what you can see here is there's not as many green spots as there are yellow spots. And then you could always even get more granular and go down to zip code levels and things like that. This visualization here is race. And the interesting part is it's poverty variables. And this kind of rips apart that notion that, well, minorities are going to be in poorer neighborhoods. It's not true. You know, you going through this data when it's live, you see that, you know, in Washington, D.C., this underlying area here, this is not poverty, and you see a preponderance of brown people. So, you know, when you can dig into data, you can start looking at patterns and not just measure, but get a different data question and get a different understanding. And then I use Kaggle. Speaking of data resources, when we're charged with finding our own data, when I'm teaching workshops and I have people in front of me and we only have X amount of minutes to build things together, Kaggle has a lot of curated data that can, you know, I specialize looking at healthcare data, medical data. Nobody wants to do that. So I like to give them a broad, you know, swath of different types of information they can pull from. And Kaggle is brilliant at that. In fact, this one is just kind of funny. I just thought it was funny, like looking at where all the Chipotle restaurants are located. But as I looked at this and I put it on a layer of per capita income, almost without fail, every like Chipotle is in a higher income level. You know, there's the greens are the higher income level. And I just thought that was kind of interesting because look at the clusters. I mean, it's almost exact. So that was just a little finding, you know, just from looking at mapping data and teaching how to look at a map and bring your base layers in. And then because I work at census data, this cracked me up. There's a squirrel census. And what's fun about the squirrel census, besides the fact that it's squirrels, is it's inside the New York City open data, where I think one of the winning or one of the highly regarded visualizations that Sarah shared was from the one with the building heights and looking at the building architecture came out of that site as well. But the squirrel census data, I just thought it was hysterical because this is each an individual squirrel. And if you look at the data live, it actually does a little network analysis, like the squirrels that hang out together and are in different, different areas of the park. And then this one is, so there's the little squirrel right there. And I like the heat map. So they have a heat map for these guys, like where they're all hanging out. So I just wanted to remind you once again to go over to the community forum. I'm going to punt this back to the PowerPoint. I wanted to make it pretty fast for everybody so that we could keep it moving along. So I'm going to share, get back over to PowerPoint. And now we're going to have Brad. He's going to talk about the noodle, the new data model. So I'm going to stop sharing and let him join in.
Sounds good. I'm here. Let me see if I can share my screen. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Try that one. Get the zoom off of it. Is that sharing, guys?
Not yet.
That's kind of strange. Okay. Let's see if we can't just do the screen. How about that?
There you go.
Good. And set this thing once. Here we go. Everybody should see Tableau noodles. Sound good?
Yep.
Wonderful. So what I want to do is just go through a little short intro.
Really fast. Wait, Brad, before you go, you sent me a message and I forgot to mention that the ArcGIS server, you can connect to it directly from Tableau. And thank you for reminding me to mention that.
Yeah, 2020.3, which is coming up, it's in beta right now. There's some connections, and some of the things that I'll be sharing in a little bit, talk about the enhancements of 2020.2, which is where I am. But 2020.3 also, these same folks have videos and discussions about the enhancements to 2020.3, and that includes a web connect to ArcGIS layers.
Yeah, we've had that for a bit, but they've improved it a lot. So thank you for reminding me to mention that. And it's all you.
I thought that was kind of cool. I always think Tableau, what they do really well is cool stuff and make it so much simpler for everybody. And what I'm going to do is look at some of the things that I'm not going to repeat a lot of what's out there, but rather this is going to be more of a curated view of what's out there relative to the noodles and my first impressions, if you will. To give you a little bit of my background is, as Sarah mentioned, I did the Tableau Iron Viz competition back in 2013. I did not get it all as far as she did. I was in the qualifier, but didn't go past that. Various different things. I have gotten my various different blueprint labels that says, golly gee, I've been all over the map. And since I've been using this since 2005, it's kind of like no big surprise. Some of the clients that I work with in the past include Cisco, which I did for quite some time, Wells Fargo, Tri-Health, variety of folks, and it covers a whole host of data. And what I find is that everybody has problems in trying to put together data. And that's why I like this data model. The new model seems to address some situations that I wish I had that model in place back earlier on in the process. Just to give you a quick overview of what this model is IT people talk in terms of things called a logical layer and a physical layer. Now the physical layer, let's start there. That's what we've had in the past. Tableau is connected to tables, and you join those tables together from table to inner join or left outer join, and you might even end up making some other combination with some other table, again with a join type relationship, and that will then enable you to do that. Or you may blend two different data sources together. That would be two separate physical layers blended together in a fashion. In a logical approach, what happens is you take you can build the data sets in the same fashion, but oftentimes what you find is that the tables, which were physical tables back in prior approach, which basically constructed one large, wide, and deep, wide being lots of columns, deep being lots of rows, and you were able to take that approach, and what that did was that just exploded large data sets to where you had to do things in order to speed up the response time. Speeding up response time techniques, as you know, were things like extracts, or you hid columns in order to reduce the number of rows, or you duplicate the data sources in order to be able to have smaller data sets in one, and then you blend it back together. A lot of mechanics going on behind the scenes in order to get speed, because the only way to deal with it was to think of it as one large, in Excel terms, one large workbook or one large worksheet of rows and columns. In a logical layer, those joins don't necessarily have to happen in order to explode everything out. The individual tables can stay separate, and they maintain their own value sets. And what you do is you tell it, golly gee, there's a relationship between one table and another. It might be something like customer ID or order ID, or a combination of customer and order ID. And depending on what view or what worksheet that you've created and what values or dimensions and measures that you brought in, is that Tableau will then figure out the SQL behind the scenes to put a query back to just the tables and just the dimensions or measures that you happen to be utilizing. Because of that, it ends up speeding up the process by a whole bunch. And it handles some, but not all, issues that deal with level of detail calculations. So that it used to be that you'd have to do an aggregation, and then you end up trying to get a grand total, et cetera, and it would require a separate aggregation. I want to go through some of these folks that have covered this topic. Bethany Lyons she's a product manager at Tableau. She's been at it for quite some time. She was a consultant for a while. And she really did a follow-up presentation at TC19 after the devs on stage introduced the whole business of a data model. And I really recommend her sessions of the data model. Let's take a look at that for just a half second. And if I can't get that to shift tab across, or shift tab across. So in back here, that particular link brings it out. There's a whole video about this on data model enhancements. And it's a 15, 20-minute video. It covers, really does a superb job of covering the data, including very simple constructions talking about aggregations, how the different levels of aggregations work, and then also how the data model works behind the scenes. So that's the first one that I think is a good one. The second one that I want to bring up is, one more time, is we have the Tableau. She also has a Tableau series that deals with a 3-part series, intro, tips, and asking questions. That was a follow-up. And in that particular one, the tips and asking questions really starts diving into how to relate various tables together and how filter actions or filters constructed as basically an equality join basically puts in a inner join into a particular relationship. So that was kind of cool also. Now, Tim Iguana from the Information Lab, a competing consulting firm, but an absolutely pristine way of presenting data. Tableau Tim has very concise and enlightened explanations. I really recommend going out to see Tim's view on things. And I think he does a great job of bringing it in and also providing examples. He's a trainer. He's been gone through the whole routine of training people, hundreds of people through his consulting operation. And his presentations over the years have improved immensely to the point that he's just fun to watch. For Flaggy Chin, for twins, which I probably mispronounced their names or last name, I apologize. But the net of it is these two guys really take a way on how data science is taught, and it's how I construct it. In this particular one, they're looking behind the scenes. As you know, with Tableau, you can actually do a performance recording. It will then expose the SQL behind the scenes that actually goes against the various data tables, and you can basically see what are they really doing. So if you're into that type of routine, this particular one works pretty well. The last one that is actually Tableau Online and their help, which is absolutely jam-packed with data and information about this whole business. But what I found with that particular one is that I felt like I was reading an encyclopedia. Used terminology really common to information technology. I've got a master's in information technology, and I can't say that I always like to go back to that entire syntax and vocabulary. It's very unique. Every word has a specific meaning, and if you're not really familiar with those terms, then reading the online help just may not be as insightful, and hence I put the others ahead of it. One of the things that you find in this data source using relationships, some of the good things is that there is, as we mentioned, this automatic level of detail aggregation. So you end up enabling yourself to pull together and getting totals and counts and whatnot much more simply without having to have separate level of detail type of calculations being constructed. Because they will also, in a relationship, constructed what in essence is what's called an outer join or full join. The unmatched map values, so if you have a list of all, say 10 salespeople and only 6 people have had orders for the month, in a normal join condition or a typical join condition where you start with an orders table, all you'll ever find out is that those 6 people and what their names are. You won't know who are the other 4 that didn't get any sales during that period of time. And an unmatched measure value would provide that. Join conditions created based on view context, which is what I mentioned before, so that as the view is built, depending on what measure, what dimension you bring in, will determine which tables are brought in, and from that, the Tableau will figure out a contextual SQL statement that about 95% of the time will bring up the right numbers. Only tables that are included, as I mentioned. And one of the downsides, if you will, is that extracts won't pre-compute calculations. That was a speed thing that you were able to do before, is that all your calculated fields you could optimize and it would do a pre-compute your calculations. So one of the things that I noticed that none of these other examples did was they didn't go through what I call a master detail. So this is where I had 2 separate data sources. In this case, I did a presentation back in January, February or so. It was about my beach vacation. And I had 2 tables, one table which dealt with the vacation properties, and the other table listed out the multiple number of amenities that were available in each property. If I did that with a join, those 2 would have exploded, each property having 5 particular or more amenities. The cost for a week would have been multiplied by the number of amenities. And that's not what I wanted to do when I looked for the sum of what's the weekly rent rate. So I would have had to go out and divide out, do a level of detail calculation, etc. Not what I did in the process. Instead, I did a master detail and avoided all that sort of routine. But I did have to have 2 separate data sources. And in the new approach, I can do it with 1. And I'd like to show you that. Let's look at just for a moment here. This is Bethany's routine where she has introductions, etc. Tableau Tim, just in case you're not familiar with them. As I mentioned, all sorts of stuff also now on 20.3. Tableau's or the Verflage twins, and then the data model here. So let me get that out of the way. So last time, that's very nice to hear. Last time that I did all this, I'm sorry, getting sidetracked. This is what it looked like. So I could go to something like look at Emerald Isle, see what various different properties were out there. I ordered them by the various different weekly rates. And when you clicked on something, it would come up and it would give you not only information about it, but also it would list out the amenities that are over here. So to kind of look at how that was done behind the scenes is that when we looked at that, we actually had 2 data sets, and it was an action filter, and then it ended up dealing with it. And in the data sources, as it started, it ended up with, sure enough, there's amenities from the same workbook and from the exact same workbook, the other tab, the 2 tabs looking at it. Nothing particularly fancy here, but there was the business of the unique ID, which is what I joined him on, or was able to work with a master detail. This whole combination of selecting one and the detail showing up over here, this becomes the detail. This, all the rest of this is all off the master. So then I migrated it to 20.2, and let's see what that looks like over here in the data area. So this time, as I go out into the data area one more time, we're going to take a look at that. And now under 20.2, all I did was open it up in 20.2, and it comes out to say migrated data, and that's the default option for a upgraded workbook. And you click on it and you'll see that, yeah, it's the same amenities by property table. And over here, the rental properties is the same rental properties table. So nothing's changed. The operation out here is exactly the same. We click on one, we get a cottage. We click on another one, and we get the information about it. Click on another one, and we can get the details, etc. So then the third approach was to say, let's come out here and let's use the new data model. And one more time, we start looking at some of these details. And again, we've got the amenities popping up. So nothing seems to have changed. However, if I come in here and edit the data source, this is all I have. I have one data source, rental property with noodles. The relationship says the unique ID is connected with each other. So while the data is sitting here in the new data model, when I click on rental properties, all I ever see is just the rental properties. And when I sit on amenities, and I don't see a joined table that exploded Blue Water 200 by the 15 or so amenities that it has. And what's kind of cool about that is, so as I bring in the properties, I can see how many amenities are there by property. There's 13,689 of them. And I can ask, well, how many properties are there? And I just need to double click on that, sorry. There's 764 properties. And you can kind of see how things would explode out very quickly. But none of that particularly affects. So I'm able to do this particular sheet without a problem, just by bringing in only the amenity information, and it doesn't duplicate. I don't have any level of details. It's simply the values out of the table. And that, to me, is the cool part, is that it gets pretty doggone straightforward, if you will. And one more time, my display settings are swapped again. So that's all I really wanted to cover today. Kind of give you a little bit different view of the model. My belief is that the benefit is it requires less technical knowledge to obtain the desired results. It does introduce a new syntax in how to get the filtering and to get some of the totals. So with if you have a workbook that has lots of LOD calculations and you just deal with migrated data, the vast majority of those will construct themselves and present themselves appropriately. But you may want to investigate going in and pulling things out from a joined condition or from a separate data source condition like I did here, and put it into a noodle, simplify it, get it into one data source. By doing that, you can then share the data source without having to have a lot of instruction on how to use the thing. It's all there and becomes so much easier, in my opinion. Hopefully that's helpful.
The speed of it all.
Question?
Did you find it faster?
Sometimes I found it faster. I found that one of the things that I did in this process that I was doing in preparation for this presentation was I went out again. Bethany, of course, was the author of an article which says what are the most common 15 LOD calculations, and she's got some data sets out there. And one of the problems with most of those data sets is that the data sets are built really for the LOD approach. So it's a large, wide, and deep table. And if I try to denormalize them or normalize them rather, and separate them out into tables as they probably were before they were joined, and then try to build the same presentation, I found I was using LOD calculations. So either I'm not there yet, or there's some more tricks to the trade.
Yeah.
I believe LODs are not gone. I just think that certain use case conditions, it really does simplify things. And that's the most common ones.
Especially, you know, I use a lot of census data and those tables are huge. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Brad. Now you're tabulating. I'm going to go to the last little slide that I have, and you can tabulate who our winner is and make sure they're still on the call.
I will be pressing the button momentarily.
Yeah, let me get back to...
Let me stop my share.
Oh, I stopped you.
Good, thank you.
While he's tabulating the winner, I just wanted to remind you of our fourth quarter get together, which will be in October. Let's see if North Carolina can behave itself. Maybe we'll be able to do a socially distanced thing. That'd be nice. You know, I'm thinking this originally was going to be Tableau 101, fast facts and skill enhancement. And I'm thinking something like that, but around 20.3, a lot of the new stuff that just came out, I think we're going to focus on that. And I would like to invite some of the people who haven't presented or spoke at a meeting and might want to throw all the resources out that you need and allow you to present, and we can film it and you could have something for your, for your experience. So let us know. And I'm now, somebody just raised their hand or something. Let's see.
I just chatted with you.
Oh, do we have a winner? And is this person still on the call?
Yes, so it so indicates.
Okay, let me see. Wait, I want to, hold on.
You have a drum roll?
Well, I want to find, where did my slide go? Hold on. Resume share. Don't go anywhere. I don't know why it won't share, but so the winner is Mark Miller, and I just unmuted you.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so could you see my screen? Did I just, where'd everything?
I see end of slideshow.
Oh, I don't know what's going on here. I wanted to show you what you won. All right, let me see if I can get, here we are. So if you can see me, this is your lovely.
Fantastic.
And it really is nice. It's a nice, so you can reach out to me and we'll figure out how to get it to you.
Yeah,
So
no worries.
Put your information in the chat box straight to Bonnie.
Yeah, you can do a private chat with me with how to get a hold of you in the chat box so everyone can't hunt you down and steal your lovely backpack. But thank you, everybody. I'm going to, this video.
That was done totally random, by the way. Excel random function is how it was chosen. Only once.
The recording will be over in our community file, and some information about getting involved for the next presentation. I'd love to see more people step up to the mic and try their hand. Maybe we have more confidence now because of all this Zooming everyone's been doing. It can be 10 minutes. You don't have to commit to a 30-minute or a 40-minute. It can be some, a visualization you did. It could be something around anything at all you're interested, Tableau, related at all. And I'd love to encourage you to throw your hat in the ring. On that note, the thunder's coming rolling in. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Mark. And we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.